Businesses come in all shapes and sizes. Integrity doesn't. For more than a century, the Better Business Bureau has set the standards for how businesses should operate honestly and ethically. So when you're looking for a business you can trust, check to see who's BBB accredited and who isn't. Always choose the Better Business. Look for the BBB seal because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
Get started. So my name is Austin Calabaza. I am the Community Outreach Liaison for the Better Business Bureau serving New Mexico and Southwest Colorado. And with me today, we have Melissa Barker, who is the Certification and Assistance Program Manager for New Mexico OSHA.
Good morning, and thank you for attending the presentation. I want to talk a little bit about some of our programs, our OSHA program, as well as our Small Business Assistance Program, and non-enforcement, which is, little is known about that. Most folks know about the enforcement folks. So I just want to give a little bit of information so you'll know what's available to you as a small business. So again, my name is Melissa Barker, and I'm the Certification and Assistance Program Manager. I oversee the business assistance section, and I do have a background in enforcement. I started in the enforcement section with New Mexico OSHA in 1999. I also have experience in the private sector, and I have the last 17 years experience with business assistance. So New Mexico OSHA is one of 27 state plans. There are 29 states and territories, so 27 state plans and 2 territories that administer their own OSHA program. So they accept funding from federal OSHA, grant funding, and they administer the programs within their states. The rest of the states would be federal states. So if you're from Colorado, for example, that is a federal OSHA state, but they do have a business assistance component consultation, free of charge, confidential, no penalties, through one of the universities there. So they still have a component for assisting business in Colorado as they do in New Mexico. So again, New Mexico is a state plan, and it is actually housed under the New Mexico Environment Department. We're known as the Occupational Health and Safety Bureau, but OSHA is what's most familiar to folks, so I use New Mexico OSHA. And we have 3 sections, major sections within our bureau. One is operations and planning, which includes our admin support, as well as Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And that Bureau of Labor and Statistics, they collect data on injuries, illnesses, and fatalities within the state. And they provide that information to national BLS, and those are published rates. That's how we focus our efforts. We know, what types of industries employees are getting hurt in, employees are experiencing illnesses as a result of the workplace, and where employees are being killed in the workplace. And they collect that information through that BLS or Bureau of Labor and Statistics section for the state. The other section, or the second section, is the certification and assistance, which includes the business assistance. So that's my section. I am the program manager of this section, and I have 2 teams that focus on providing information and assistance to employers, as well as information to employees. And then the third section is what most folks are familiar with, which is the compliance and enforcement section. So those are the inspectors that go out and conduct inspections, and they propose penalties. And so, that's the most, I think, familiar group to folks, is that enforcement and compliance section. And that includes 11C. And then the 11C is the anti-discrimination retaliation. So if an employee exercises their rights under the OSHA Act, then the 11C investigators, or that section, will investigate those allegations. So those are the 3 primary sections of the New Mexico State Plan. Something I want to mention as well is that we have jurisdiction over all private sector businesses, and we also have jurisdiction over public sector in the state of New Mexico. So not all states have that jurisdiction, but we do. So we have jurisdiction over state city, county, village employees. We do not have jurisdiction where other agencies have established jurisdiction. For example, over the road would be DOT, mining operations would be MSHA, sovereign nations, we do not have jurisdiction there. That comes out of federal OSHA, out of El Paso, Texas. With the exception of the Navajo Nation, who has their own OSHA program. We also don't have jurisdiction over federal facilities, any DOE, so the labs, we don't have jurisdiction there. We also don't have jurisdiction, for example, over post offices, so those fall under federal OSHA. So that's a little bit about jurisdiction within the state OSHA program, and it's our compliance and enforcement section has the same jurisdiction as our certification and assistance program. So we also have the ability to assist public sector as well as private sector businesses. Next slide, please. So the reason we're here is to talk about the business assistance section. So again, it's a little known program. Most folks are familiar with compliance and enforcement. The business assistance program or consultation is separate than enforcement. And in fact, we cannot share information with each other. So the consultation program is confidential and we cannot share any information with the exception of if you are working with the consultation section and enforcement shows up and you say we're working with consultation, they will call, we will verify that you are working with us, and then they will not conduct any programmed inspections. But there are a couple of different types of inspections which I'll talk about as well. But the important thing to note is that we are separate from the compliance and enforcement group, and our work is confidential. So we do not share information between the groups, and in fact, we are separated by an entire floor and offices with doors just because of that confidentiality. So the OSHCON program, or the OSHA Consultation Program, New Mexico Consultation Program, is designed to assist small businesses. And small businesses would be less than 250 employees on site or less than 500 employees corporate-wide. While you're working with the consultation group, you would be exempt from New Mexico enforcement programmed inspections. Now, there are different types of inspections, so it's important to understand the difference. So if you receive a complaint, formal complaint from an employee, if you have a referral, anybody driving by or somebody visiting your business that calls in a complaint or referral, if there's fatality investigation, you would not be exempt from those, but you are exempt from those program random inspections while you're working with the consultation program. The other thing to note is it's free of charge. Again, I mentioned already that it is confidential and there are no penalties associated with the work that we do. So even if we find something, we don't administer any penalties. So we are here to assist in whatever way we can to ensure that employees are protected and that employers are following the regulations. And so that's basically why we are in place. So next slide, please. So what will we do? I'm going to talk about the wills and the won'ts of the program. So what we will do is we'll help you to recognize hazards within your workplace. We will suggest general approaches for options in solving safety and health problems. We'll identify the kinds of help that are available to you outside of our organization. We'll help identify those options for you. We'll also provide a written report summarizing our findings. And we will assist you in developing or maintaining an effective safety and health program. So we have templates that we can provide to you. We can review that information, ensuring that based on the hazards in your workplace that you have the OSHA required programs, and we will help you set those programs up. We also provide training and education to you and to your employees. Now, those are strictly based on OSHA regulations. So any very specific training, standard operating procedures would be, yours to train on, but we would offer the training from an OSHA standpoint free of charge. So something important to note as well is if you request our services, so you do have to request our services, it's voluntary. We can't just show up to your workplace without you inviting us in, is that you can also limit the visit to whatever it is that you're looking for. So if you want us to look at just a particular area of your business, a particular process, a particular piece of equipment, you can limit that. And if you decide, I want you to look at everything and it seems like it's getting a little overwhelming, you can stop the visit at any time, and then we can come back at a future date and finish if you desire for us to come back and do that for you. So we will not issue citations or propose penalty for violations of the OSHA standard. That's not our role. We are here to assist business without that component of issuing citations or proposing penalties. We will not report possible violations to the OSHA enforcement staff. That's not our role. The other thing is that we also cannot guarantee that your workplace will pass an OSHA inspection, because at the point in time that we are there, and if we are just there in a limited capacity, you may have somebody come in at a later date, even years later. You may never see them, but if they do come in, we cannot guarantee that you'll pass that OSHA inspection, because what we're looking at is at that point in time when we're in your business, what we've identified and what we've assisted you with. Next slide, please. So how do you get started with the process? Well, you do have to submit a request for consultation services. So unlike enforcement, we just do not come into your workplace. You actually have to invite us in. So, it's a cooperative program in which we work with you to ensure safety and health of your employees, and insofar as possible, compliance with the regulations. So you do have to submit that request for consultation services. We do have an online request that you can submit, and then we process a request. We'll send you a confirmation letter, and then our consultants, so there'll be a safety and a health consultant that will focus on your workplace, will contact you to coordinate the on-site visit. Now, safety consultant would focus on things such as fire protection, electrical safety, fall protection, lockout, tag out, machine guarding. Those are the types of or examples of things that our safety consultants would look at. Now, our health consultants would be looking at things like exposure to chemicals. So if you're working with chemicals of any sort, you're required to have a hazard communication program, which includes a list of hazardous chemicals, a written program, training and education, safety data sheets, and so forth. So our health consultant will focus in on those areas, or if you have exposure to other things like bloodborne pathogens, they would focus on that, or if you had high noise levels in your workplace, they would be looking at that as well. And our health consultants can actually conduct sampling, air sampling, noise monitoring, completely free of charge. We absorb all of the cost for that. Do you have a question? No, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were raising your hand. So we absorb the complete cost for the lab and for the analysis, and then we provide that information to you so that you have that documentation. So where you might pay a private consultant thousands of dollars to conduct either air or noise sampling, we will do that free of charge for you. Okay, and so you just have to fill out that request form, and then we can get the process started. So let's talk about what it entails. So go ahead.
Yeah, so since our techs, they're mostly on the field, is it possible that you guys would come in instead of like I guess, I don't know how it would be an inspection if our techs are on the field, but is it possible you guys would come and, I guess it wouldn't be called an inspection, but, do I don't know, like a training of sorts, like to show the techs what is wrong and what's right? Do you guys do anything like that?
What we can do, and I think there was a question about field activities. So depending on the nature of your business, we can look at your field activities. We can also look at your shopping yard if you have a shopping yard for equipment. We can also do, the training, and it will be specific to, the hazards that they may be exposed to. What's the nature of the business that you operate?
Well, we are a window cleaning and housekeeping and business cleaning company.
Okay, so are you doing like the big commercial buildings window cleaning?
Yeah, but yes, but
Okay,
we haven't had to do any like any 4-story or more, because we're in Santa Fe, so there's
correct.
a limit on the story. Yeah, so we don't have like, we're not on ropes or anything, but there's a lot of ladder safety.
Okay,
Um, I guess that's mostly.
ladder safety. Okay, so you are doing both inside and outside then?
That's correct.
Okay, so we would be looking at, we could look at those operations, and for example, you are using chemicals, so you would need to have a written hazard communication program in place, complete with the list of the chemicals that you're using. You would have to have the safety data sheets as well, the written program and the training component. So we could cover things like the elements of the safety data sheet, what they mean, what the labeling means, what the pictograms mean on that labeling. We can cover all of that information. We have templates, we have guidance on the OSHA.gov website. It gives you good instruction on how to put those programs together, but fall protection is going to be major for you as well, right? So you're going to be looking at, even on ladders, are you maintaining that 3 point of contact? Should you be using, lifts rather than ladders? As far as inspection of ladders, how to set up those ladders, are you using A-frames, are you using extension ladders, how those extension ladders need to be set up, all of that we can cover with you. And again, we refer to them as visits because, we're not enforcement, so we don't like to call them inspections, but we will call them visits and assessments, because again, we are here in a cooperative nature to help you. And we don't want it to be implied that, we're doing something that's going to be punitive. We're here to assist. So yes, we can look at your shopping yard where you store your chemicals. We can look at all of that. We can also address your field operations without even going out into the field, or we can go out in the field with you to look at your operations as well.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for answering.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So the first step is the opening conference. So, once you've submitted that request for consultation services and our consultants have reached out to you and we've scheduled the on-site visit, then they will conduct an opening conference. And so when they get to the work site, after they've scheduled the visit, they will meet with you in an opening conference to briefly review the consultant's role and the obligations you incur as an employer. There'll be some paperwork signed, just general information. If you're unionized, they'll reach out to you and basically say, you have to notify the union that we're participating. So that is one of the obligations. So if you are represented by the union, then you would need to notify them that we would be there, and then we would have to send them a list of hazards. So that's one thing to consider if you are unionized. But we will discuss in that opening conference, kind of the scope of what that visit looks like, what your rights and what your obligations are. And then we'll look at things like written safety and health programs. Do you have any? They'll ask you for those before they even get out to do the on-site visit. If you don't have them, it's no big deal. We're not enforcement. If you don't have them, you just tell us you don't have them, and then we'll start working up templates and ways of helping you put those things in place if you don't have them. But they will ask for those when they're trying to schedule that on-site visit. And then if you do have them, they'll be reviewing them with you. If you've sent them electronically or if you have hard copies, they'll be reviewing them during that opening conference as well. So step 2 is the walkthrough. So basically they will walk through your workplace, or, if you have field activities, then we'll, walk through those field activities, take a look at what you're doing. And what we're doing is we're trying to assess the hazards, the safety and health hazards in the workplace. Part of that is employee participation. So we're looking at also talking to employees. Again, we're not enforcement. So when we talk to employees, what we're trying to gauge is, what do you work with? What are the hazards you're working with? And we're also trying to gauge training, how much training would be needed so that we would be able to address that issue if that is a concern. So step 2 is basically you're together with the consultant, you're looking at the workplace. So the consultant will be taking pictures, taking notes, because they do have to prepare a case file and a report. But again, all of that is confidential. So again, that employee involvement becomes important. So we have a better idea of what's going on, and that we can assist you in how you need to be assisted as far as training, having, engineering controls, possibly administrative controls, personal protective equipment, whatever it is that you need to have in place, we can better assist you with that and identifying the hazards in your workplace by having that employee involvement, as well as your involvement, or if you've got, superintendents or supervisors, their involvement becomes very important as well. So the third step is the closing conference. So after we've done the opening conference, we do the walkthrough, we're identifying hazards, we're having discussions with you, employer, as well as employees. Then we're going to have a closing conference. And at that point in time, we're going to review the findings, what we've seen in the workplace. And then we're going to talk about interim protections that need to be in place until you can correct those hazards. And we'll also, we'll be talking about possible solutions, things that you can put in place for those easy fixes, getting those done while we're on site. And then we'll establish a time frame in which you have to fix the hazards we identified. So you do have to, one of the obligations is if we identify the hazards, you do have to correct the hazards, the serious hazards. We can't leave a workplace where we leave employees exposed to hazards without being corrected. So we will establish that timeline with you. And when I discussed earlier about limiting the visit, if you feel like you just want to look at a specific piece of equipment, particular area, or if you feel like you're a little overwhelmed with the visit and you want to just stop it where it's at, it becomes important because you will need to fix what we identify while we are there. So step 4 is the abatement and follow through. So you'll receive a written report from us. Actually, you're going to receive 2 reports. You're going to receive a safety visit report and a health visit report. They'll have 2 different focused areas. They're going to share some information, but they're also going to have separate information. And you will have to look through those reports to identify, what it is that needs to be corrected, and then you will need to provide a response to us. We also give opportunity for extensions. If you can't correct within that original time frame, you can request an extension. It's just a matter of stating, which you need an extension on as far as those hazards that have been identified, why you need that extension, interim protections that may be in place, and how much time you would need. So we work with you through the process.
Yeah, so after you identify the hazards, do you guys come back to follow up on the, what we fixed, or?
We can. So there are a couple of reasons we can come back. So if we were doing air sampling or noise monitoring, for example, we could come back on a follow-up. We can also come back and verify correction in a follow-up, and we can also come back and do training and education in a follow-up. So if you respond to us and you give us a description of what you did, invoices, pictures, that sort of thing, we can also close out those open hazards that way as well. So we don't necessarily have to go back and verify the hazard correction, as long as we've got, something stating what you did, and then, some support documentation there as well. But again, if you're wanting us to do training and education, that's kind of a follow-up, and we would be back to do that. And any other, if you had a new process or new piece of equipment you wanted us to look at, we could also go back and we could look at that as well. So again, you would receive the written reports, 2 written reports, 1 safety, 1 health. They'd have the same due dates on there, but again, depending on what's been identified, you may need to ask for an extension, and we allow for that as well. The big thing is, interim protections, and we have 20 days to get that report to you, but we always suggest when we leave that you start correcting things as soon as possible so that you can respond as soon as possible, and then we can just get those hazards closed out. And typically, the team has been really good about getting those reports out just in a matter of days. So, we have a pretty quick turnaround time, but through policy procedure, and these are nationally established policy and procedures, we have up to 20 days to get those reports out. You can ask questions of us at any time. Okay, so if you have questions and you need guidance as you work through the process, you can communicate with consultants, you can call, you can email. We are here for you. Our tax, the tax dollars you pay for our jobs, and we are here to assist you. So contact us if you need that guidance, if you need help getting through the process. So what are the benefits? The benefits are, of course, complying with the, safety and health regulations, removing the hazards from your workplace that can cause injury, or illnesses, protecting employees, of course, is first and foremost. And it also helps with morale overall, when you have a safe and healthful workplace. So also productivity, bottom line, when you lower those injury and illness rates and you decrease those workers' comp rates, as well as, so those are indirect costs, but are direct costs and indirect costs. So when somebody gets hurt, you have to maybe hire someone else. You have to train that employee. That could take time, and that's money and effort and time that you're spending when someone is hurt or someone cannot come to work because they've been hurt. So, trying to control those hazards and those injury illnesses becomes really, really important from a business standpoint. So I want to talk a little about our Safety and Health Achievement Recognition Program. So there's criteria that has to be met. This is a cooperative program, which means we recognize employers that have met the minimum requirements and are going above and beyond. So this is a nationally recognized program. So, you're recognized amongst your peers. It shows that you go above and beyond as an employer to ensure that your workers are safe. And it's just a really good program to participate in. If you can get to that level, and we can guide you through the process. Even if it takes, some time to get through the process, we can help guide you, let you know where you are at if you're interested in the program, and try to help you get into either pre-SHARP or the SHARP recognition program. It also offers you exemptions. So, we would come back every year and kind of evaluate any changes to your written programs, any changes to your process, but you could remain on this program for up to 3 years with those exemptions from the programmed inspections from enforcement. Not just while you're working with us from the opening to the closing of the case file, but when you participate in this program, those exemptions are in place while you're in the program, and that could be up to 3 years. So I know you've asked some questions already, but does anyone have any other questions for me?
So we're really small. I mean, there are like 10 of us. And so in addition to the operation that we have going on now, we clean, repair, and appraise rugs, and we dye wool for weavers and things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And so what we're considering doing is, and it would probably might even be a separate business entity for us, is to start a small wool processing operation. We're located in the Four Corners, and there are lots of sheep around here, and we just love to spin their wool. And so we're looking at starting up that kind of operation. At what point would we engage New Mexico OSHA?
As soon as you start up that operation. So
Okay.
we've had businesses that before the facility is even in operation, they'll bring us out to take a look, but it's best to have us there when you're in operation. And we can do two separate requests. We can do a request on what you do now, and also your new facility as two separate requests. We also travel the entire state of New Mexico. So we are in the Four Corners area quite often. We go to JAL, we go to Hobbs, we're in Las Cruces. So we travel the entire state of New Mexico. So it doesn't matter where you are, we will come to you. And something else important to note is, we want you to get into consultation services, and we want to be able to do the on-site visits, but you can also just call and ask us technical questions. And I'm going to have our contact information on the last slide. If you just have questions about OSHA, you can call us. You don't even have to tell us who you are. And we will help you. Yep, and we'll also give you guidance, walk you through what is available from a resource standpoint through the OSHA.gov website as far as written safety and health program templates, e-tools, what the regulation states, letters of interpretation, any kind of guidance, publications that might be useful to you and your employees. We'll provide all of that to you, or at least walk you through the process if you decide you don't want to take advantage of the on-site consultation services. But what I will tell you is, because again, I have the enforcement background, background. I also have the private sector background. Is this program is really beneficial, especially if you're small business and you don't have the resources where you have a designated full-time paid safety and health person or enroll. We can help provide those services to you. And what we're looking for is a long-term relationship. We're not looking for let's do this on-site visit, let's get you the report, let's close out that case file and let's move on. What we're looking for is a long-term relationship with you as a business to hopefully get you to that point where you can qualify for that SHARP program, which again, is you're a leader within your industry. It's a program that certain criteria has to be met. It's recognized nationally. And so, our ultimate goal is to get you to that point. Now, if it's not something that you want to do, that's okay too. We can still work with you as you need our assistance.
Yeah, one of our goals is to be environmentally responsible, but also to be compliant. And that's, what we're looking at is it's more mechanical equipment than what we've used before. So basically,
Sure.
what we use is an induction hot plate and a pot. But, this is a little bit more technically challenging.
Sure. So, as you have questions, as you're establishing, maybe this new entity to your business, we can answer those questions for you. And once you have, things set up, facility ready to go and in place and employees in, we can actually go in and take a look at the facility as well. And again,
Great.
It's free of charge. It's confidential, no penalties, and you are exempt from programmed inspections while you're working with us. And I do need to mention something to you. You do have to correct the hazards that we identify. You agree to that
Right.
when we come out, because if you don't correct them, then we will be obligated to turn it over to enforcement. We don't give them specifics, sure, but we can't leave those hazards open and employees exposed to those hazards. But I think, I've been involved with OSHA for 23 years in some capacity, and I believe there's only been 2 times that that's ever happened. And I am the program manager for the business assistance portion. We work with you to get those hazards corrected. We don't want that situation to arise where you would have to be turned over to enforcement, because that's not our goal. Our goal is to assist you. We are not that enforcement section, so something important to mention.
No, this is all great information. That's one reason why I signed up for this today.
Yeah. And, the contact number at the end, you can call us. And if you choose a selection for general questions or consultation, you can just ask us questions, as I stated, even if you're not interested in the on-site visit per se, just call us and ask us the questions. Again, you don't even have to tell us who you are if you don't want to.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Next slide, please. So here's the contact information. You can call the toll-free number or the 505-476-8700, and you can just choose that selection for general questions, consultation, and we will assist you in whatever way that we can. We have the website. The easiest way to get to the website is just whatever search engine that you use is NM OHSB, so Occupational Health and Safety Bureau. If you go to the OSHA.gov website, there's tons of resources there, but sometimes it's hard to navigate through that website, so we can help you do that if you need our assistance there. So I really appreciate your time today. I hope that you take advantage of the program. Again, it's one of those, free services available to you as small business. We've worked with small business all over the state, all different types of businesses. So we worked in healthcare, we've worked in manufacturing, oil and gas. So we have vast experience in many different industries and areas. So I hope that you'll take advantage of the program. Again, that is free, confidential, no penalties, exemption from those programmed inspections from enforcement.
Wow, that was such a lot of awesome information. I'm glad I also joined, and we will be contacting you soon.
Perfect. I appreciate it. And again, if you just have general questions, I can give you my direct number. Again, I'm the program manager, and the number is 505-690-4644. if you want to contact me directly.
And what was your name again?
Melissa, and the last name is Barker, B as in boy, Arker.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you so much, Melissa.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for attending today. And, hopefully I'll hear from somebody soon.
And then we'll see you guys next time for our next webinar. Thank y'all.
All right.
Yeah,
thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Businesses come in all shapes and sizes. Integrity doesn't. So when you're looking for a business you can trust, check to see who's BBB accredited and who isn't. Always choose the better business and find one anytime at bbb.org.